Hey everyone, Boris here, bringing you another VOD review. Today I'll be jumping in game with Robinsongz from the second day of the Americas TPC, and he has managed to qualify for the third day or the final lobby. Therefore, let's see how he managed to pilot one particularly interesting game where not many people would have opted to play it the way he did, and quite a few decisions were debated on the Throwdowns co-stream as well. Therefore, let's see it from his perspective and let's try to see how he came to those decisions. We are starting out with the Bruiser pair. Definitely can consider playing into some kind of AP opener, particularly if we have already a Void Staff Slam. If we saw something like a Rod, could already consider going into it. We're also holding onto these Ionia pairs. We also have the Invoker pairs, therefore quite open at the moment as well. Could consider playing into many of these. Gonna slam the tier to already prepare for a potential LeBlanc unlock if we do get another component. Still not particularly decision clear to slam the Shojin. Little too late, unfortunately, here. So coming up on our augment selection here. Come on, Twitch, thank you. Ishtal Expeditionist. Great augment if you are confident in yourself of being able to play this line. One single decision can completely ruin your game. At the highest stakes, the nerves can get to you as well. But this is what generally is going to win lobbies. However, at this point in the tournament, I believe Robinsongz is going for very consistent finishes. I'm probably covering it right here, but if we quickly move, we can see his scores: 2, 3, 3, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, and 2. Then he took an 8th, so he's probably from that 8th playing a little conservatively. Therefore, we're probably looking for some kind of spreading routes or savings account out here. Savings account, extremely strong econ augment as well, if you're able to capitalize and play for a win out with something like a Kai'Sa Slayers or even Ionia. However, since we are lacking direction at the moment, we could be taking also spreading routes. Could enable a clear direction for us with these components, with the emblems we obtain. Particularly also because we did not get that LeBlanc unlock in time. All great options, therefore let's see what Robinsongz ends up picking here. Going to roll into Crimea River. Good augment install comms, but we do not actually... We could capitalize on the tier slam if we had unlocked the Blanc. Mace's will plays more into some kind of Slayer's line. But we're going to just jam the spreading routes, get a Bilgewater and a Piltover emblem. Can now unlock Honor Ori as well this way. We also have this Wine shop that we could decide to hold on to the Scion pair, but... Are we going to opt to make 10? Yeah, we're going to opt to make 10 and just play around it this way. So this is also interesting. We're coming on our Piltover mod here. We have the option between Blast Shields and Continuum Cogs. Overclock capacitors, unfortunately, are slightly undertuned. Continuum Cogs great into these AP lines. This is probably you already saw that you jumped at. Otherwise, we could just go for the Blast Shields as a more default kind of option that is generally great in like comps like Warwick or anything else where you can benefit from this something like Kai'Sa if you're able to tag and build over there. We also opted to reforge our Bilgewater emblem since we only had this allow-in, had sold our TF before. And generally the Bilgewater emblem only really plays into that comp, otherwise you could try to play around the Bilgewater emblem into Slayers to try to generate the GP3, but we're not playing that direction. And we do pick up a Warden emblem. That means that we are most likely going to be playing into this some kind of Liss-Seraphine board. This extremely screams death. However, we do want to be playing into that from a tempo spot. We do have this Sona too, but our frontline is a little bit on a lacking side, particularly also because we did not hold on to that Scion pair. We opted to make 10. Therefore, let's see if you're able to string together a good stage 3, and also if you're able to natural some side away this Ori too, then we would have for sure get a strong stage 3. On to our next component, probably looking to either could decide to try to look to complete Nashor's JG components already, or pick up this Void Staff would be the most tempo right away, but unfortunately the Milio with the Void Staff gets taken from us. Then we're going to go for a Rod, generally good for any kind of AP comp, obviously. Yeah, most likely the Void Staff Slam would have been the strongest one at the moment, but we'll have to hope that we can still manage to close out this stage on a streak. Scouting around, I am a little bit worried that we might get wrapped from here if there's Lavego sitting here. We do queue into Bilgewater, Michael. Unfortunately, the front line is just not able to sustain long enough, and we are going to be picking up losses. This is the part I was worried. You do really want some kind of stronger front line. We do pick up this Loris now here, and coming on up on our 4 Piltover module. We have to remember this is a selfish module. Micro rockets doesn't cut it. Outside of the T-Hex Metaverse, that wasn't even really the best one either. It's not going to be that great. Megatron Coil also got nerf after post T-Hex. So the damage jump that you get is a little bit lower, and also we do not have any kind of immediate benefit from it. At the moment we are lacking frontline, therefore we might just go for Kinetic Barrier in hopes that once we tag in this 4 Piltover, we're able to stabilize away. But how would we be playing a board here? We would probably have to drop this Alawi and then play around the Sona, but or a Nivea. Most likely a Nivea if this transition is better. Yeah, 16% damage jump. He's gonna go with the damage jump. Kinetic Barrier is in itself also underpowered. If you are looking for a 4 Piltover module that is the defensive one, you want a Gigantification Ray, giving just more HP, effective HP. Stronger in the earlier parts of game, and later on is quite fine on the units like Brom. But unfortunately we close out the stage on a 2 loss, therefore we are in a little bit tougher spot. Now since we have the Megatron Coil, we're going to transition the Piltover emblem to Anivia to get her that damage amp. This should at least ensure that if we are able to get to a proc, we are going to get at least some units killed. Now our loot sub here is just a Reforger, which is, I mean, would have worked great if we are looking for some kind of Reforge, but right now we could just hold on to these components. We have already 2 damage items, opting to not waste, but utilize that remover to try to keep up with tempo. The tempo in these Halo lobbies is, in these tournament lobbies particularly, is very high. On the next augment, item grab bag. We could not really use any AD outs, therefore I would be leaning away from it. Fire Hex would just sort our anti-heal out. An eye for an eye is kinda slow, but we are lacking in the component department. It's a little bit behind on tempo, but most likely it is the weaker option. We would really want some kind of items or recon at this point, therefore it seems like the best option from the mod presenter. Find your center. Not that great, particularly if you are considering playing around the Freljord statue and lunch money. We do not have the board to capitalize on it, and currently there even is a hot debate going on around this being the worst augment. Meanwhile, GoBuster had put up a around 30 or 40 gold lunch money game on the second day of the EU TPC. This is already turning out to be a somewhat unstandard game. Playing around this 4 Piltover mid-game with the module, you do not get to see it as much these days. We still have Malzahar now, our team planner, for some particular reasons, but we are going to be holding on to this Caitlyn as well. Now, we have tagged in Lone Leona to hopefully be able to provide a front line. We always have to evaluate at this spot, like asking ourselves, what are we lacking at this point? And since we have a technically 3 item backliner, we are lacking the front line, therefore we are going to just use the flex frontliner that we can get to hopefully stall. But at this point in the game, the Anivia is just lacking. I don't think we have any kind of shield that could be provided to it, therefore she's not going to be critting, and she is a single target unit. And as such, once we have more units on the board, she starts to struggle killing enemies. And I believe we are just hoping to be able to kill off few to be able to preserve as much HP as possible. But we managed to pick up a Lissandra in our shop. And we also opted to go for a bow to just immediately sort out our anti-heal situation. Now we did get 3 full damage items on the Lissandra, therefore our damage Piltover module is going to be going on this double Oriana 1. We opted to also level aggressively. Now, interesting to note as to why we opted to not play for Forborden. Forborden is a little bit weaker, and I believe he just simply wants to kill off some units. instead of fighting extra frontline. The Lissandra could do so definitely some work on stage 3, but yeah, there's very strong boards. We also have a Nautilus dude, so definitely lack of damage could be an issue here. And at least the Oriana benefits from our module. And upon a 7th loss streak now, and we are not particularly poor. We did the level 7 aggressive level, and now we are at 50 gold, level 7 on 35 HP. It means we probably have to sack one more if we want any kind of sufficient gold count, or probably look for a gold bailout on the last augment. Do get the full TG drop, and also our loot subscription gives us a LeBlanc too. The LeBlanc unlock that we managed to pull off actually paying off, because LeBlanc is going to be, obviously if we're unable to hit the Seraphine or the Lissandra too with the limited gold we have, LeBlanc is going to be sufficiently able to tank for us. Going to go for a Steadfast Lamp, generally just a better tank item to be going for, although I believe Protect as well, especially if you are playing some kind of Loris, is quite sufficient. However, we do not have a TG holder at this point in the game right now. And the glove can transition into quite a few items. Immediately, we saw the gold option gun roll. Just a quickly note, Spears will not great in our spots. Alright, if you can immediately utilize the sword. Unseal from Steel, Darkened Staff has some potentials, and the Darkened tank item is also not that bad, but we are currently not lacking items. If you have the emblems, if you have the Eye for an Eye, therefore going to go for it. Arcane Victory, underpowered, simply so many CC immunities and not needing in combat. Little Buddies plays into very few comps, but 3-3 is just generally a great econ augment. We can already pick up Lissandra 2 on the Braum player. Braum 2 coming in. That's hopefully is going to stabilize that, but we're able to finally find the Seraphine, so we're going to probably looking to tag in, at least check our 6 Blow Tower mod, right? We should. We have the free option to. We have been holding onto this Caitlyn for so long. Now, alright, so we are low on HP, so probably Mining Drill, and we have hit our board mostly. A Mining Drill could hope us to enable us to go to 9. Echo Engine is not going to be that great. The module, it's delayed, so in late game is going to proc quite late. Plus the damage amp that we'll be getting, it's just not the strongest thing we can get right now. Upgrade would be the strongest thing that would enable us to spike right now, but we do not have any items on our built over units. So we are playing with the dead module 1 round. We are going up against the Kaisa 2 already. Thankfully they only still have 1 Rift Herald, but Kaisa 2 with the Crown of Demacia is extremely strong. Take while also 100 streaking. Pick up the Caitlyn 2, and now we have a T-Hex unlock. Going to transition that Piltover emblem onto the Braum, so at least we have a target for our upgrade unit. Also holding on to these 3 components, greeding a little bit, but yeah, just going to go for the Visage Slam. Do not want to be greeding components on this low in HP. And okay, this Braum is able to hold on this Bel'Veth. Our backline did get taken out, but the Braum giving in the punch, and Lissandra, sufficient time for Lissandra to do that necessary damage. Now we have the open glove. We do have a T-Hex unlock. Do we go for a TG just for the T-Hex? We're going to go, okay, for a JG instead. Yeah, obviously going to complete our items nicer. Go get extra actual damage on our carries. The T-Hex one is going to be a thing we can play around, but you also pick up a 2-star Tarek. And we had a Shyvana. Now, Tarek is extremely strong with a Warden Emblem. Warden Emblem scales with your shields. Tarek shields both as his passive, I believe, at 50%, right? And as his ability is a shield, therefore he's able to share these shields and heal from them. It's extremely strong, and the Shyvana could also just simply provide the extra damage, but we are going to also instead play a naked T-Hex. Now, this is a very interesting point, as if you have the Piltover emblem, yes, you can play for this T-Hex in this line. Obviously you do not itemize him with the damage items, whatever. You can just give him whatever. That's hence for I was mentioning the Thieves' Gloves before. However, I just believe that we have a Tarek too with a Warden Emblem. That would have been so much stronger. Are we really worried about our damage situation that much at this point that we need a T-Hex to be doing something on this board? Could it just drop it down to 4 Piltover, drop this... I would assume by a T-Hex. Now, we are not the only upgrade that we could be chasing right now would be a Loris 2. Do get a double anvil drop, going to pick up that TG for the T-Hex. And now, or is there any way how we could... Alright, so we're finally able to get the voice staff online as well. Just going to see if we had any option to be able to complete the shred. Had 2 outs and we're able to hit them. Against the Shadow Isles player. Shadow Isles is also a thing that's good comp in a ladder setting where you're able to capitalize, and the general board strength is going to be a little bit lower. However, in these high elo tournament lobbies where everyone's able to squeeze out every little bit out of their boards, Shadow Isles seems to be at the moment falling a little bit behind. Against a Seraphine, Liss, and Shurima board, we have Pusgat on our position, but this Nasus is quite tanky, and we are able to get it out. The interesting thing to note again about this Lissandra positioning, remember her damage, her spell does the AoE splash damage, therefore if she's hitting a single target, she's actually able to chunk them from quite a lot. If they were to be positioned in the clump, then that's where you start to feel like she's underpowered, because she's splitting her damage quite a bit apart. We can probably notice here on the Nautilus, just able to erase the Nautilus right there. However, now we're near hitting the clump. Well, we had the assistance, but we were able to... She was doing considerably less at this point for each single target. Now, are we going to be playing around this idea of a Freljord emblem? That would be top level cookery, but that gets taken from us. Okay, so we don't get baited. We're just going to go for a 3rd item on our Seraphine, most likely. 3 item is just the strongest thing you can do, right? Able to level roll once, find a Loris 2. And now, oh, we also found an Echo, right? So we can just get in the Disruptor for the Seraphine. Going to obviously instead go for a frontline adaptive slab. Secure our frontline, as we are lacking. I believe he believes to be lacking in that department. We do get the continuous tank Radiant roll. Now this fight, the Slayers were unfortunately able to wrap us, so we do drop down to 1 life. That is something we have to quite worry about this positioning. If you're able to concentrate your damage and break them before your frontline gets fully overwhelmed, it's kind of fine. But otherwise, I believe we do at least want to be positioning 1 hex to the right. But since we keep queuing into these matchups where they have their carries on this side, it works out better for us since we're able to concentrate our damage, but it is a gamble. It is for sure a gamble, especially against these melee comps that are able to pull out wraps like this. I'm going to salvage our items as well, use the salvage as an extra remover for us. Could have held on to that remover for a while, but perhaps he's expecting. We do get another complete item. I'm going to go for another TG, and then I'm going to build over emblem onto the Sandra to get that extra damage jump on her. Well read, just be able to pick up a 3rd tank item. So I assume that was the plan all along, to be able to keep this adaptive on the Sejuani. Against, again, the Shurima board, but has picked up Freljord as well, so it's a very close fight. But now that we have the damage item on the damage radiant from a unit benefiting actually from the damage jump, we do have sufficient amount of damage. This DX is slightly making out. Now this is another interesting thing noted. If you have the salvage bin, if you're able to break apart your TGs, they can reroll. So I assume that was the play that Robinsongz is going on for there. Again, we are on the correct side now. With the Freljord statue, you are quite late. Like, it takes quite a while for you to reposition all your stack, right? So they should be able to at least move you out. But we have made this all the way to top 2. Now we do have a Senna too that we do not exactly have a way to make. Transition the TG just to divide because it's tank TG. He's already pulling off the walk, however I wouldn't be as confident as the Tom Kench 2 is coming out from the opposite side. And it's able to break our front line, and the Volibear 2 is doing extremely much work. And we do lose, but it's maybe a walk for the content. But very interesting to see how Robinsongz has managed to pull off a T-Hex, a generally underplayed unit in the current meta, recognizing his spot and making the best use of even some of the more underplayed built over modules. I hope you enjoyed watching and you learned something new just like I did, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.